Hi guys, it's Peppy Styling here. You're welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be making the continuation of the making of this two-piece. Kindly keep on watching. If you're new to my channel, you're welcome. Consider hitting the subscribe buttons to my returning subscribers. Thank you for sticking with us. Without wasting much time, let's get into the video. So in this second part, we'll be making the baggy pants of the two-piece. So here I've rolled my starting line and I'll be placing my tape minus 1.5, which will be for the waistband. The waistband is going to be 2 inches wide, so I'm subtracting 1.5, the half inches for the joining. And I'll mark my crotch depth. My crotch depth is my hip divided by 4, and I added extra 3 inches to the crotch depth. And I'll mark the knee line, and from there I'm going to mark the full length of this pant. Next, I'm going to roll my line. I crossed all the points. So on the crotch line, I'm going to mark my hip divided by 4, and I will be adding 1.5 inches for ease and 1.5 for seam allowance, okay? Depending on how loose you want your pants to be. You can add as much as 2 inches for ease or so, but for me, I'll be doing 1.5 for ease, 1.5 for seam allowance, and I'm going to roll a straight line to the waistline. Then for the cross extension, I'm going to divide my hip by 10. So whatever I have about 2.5. I added it there as the cross extension, and then I'm going to connect with a curve here. So from this part, I'm going to go inwards by 1 inch, and I'm going to connect it to meet the line just like so. Okay. So from here, we're going to measure the hip circumference. We're using the hip on the waistline, okay, because the one is going to be having elastic. So I'm going to mark the hip divided by 4, and then I'm adding 1.5 for seam allowance, and I'm just going to blend it into this part. Okay, so this part is supposed to meet the hip line, but I didn't mark the hip line. You can as well skip this part, or you can also go ahead and mark your hip line just like I did here. Okay, so this point is the hip line. So I'm just going to blend that side to meet the hip line. From this top part, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect it to meet this waistline with a slanted line, just like so. This helps the waist to relax properly. For the wideness of your pant, you can decide to take it all the way to the hemline, but for me, I'm going to divide these 2 points by 2, and I'm going to mark the midpoint. Then whatever I have and half of it, I'm going to mark it all the way to the hemline. This is the grain line for the pants. Okay, so I'm just going to connect it with a very faint line. And then whatever I have here, I have about 8 inches. Like I said, you can decide to take it all the way down, but I decided to reduce mine. So I reduced it to about 7 inches. So I'm just going to mark 7 inches on both sides of the grain line, all the way to the hemline. And then I'm just going to connect. Please pardon me if my chalk isn't showing very well, but just follow the video, you're going to understand it. So from this part down, I'm going to connect it to meet the crotch, and this part is just going to meet our crotch extension. So this is basically it for the front. Next is to cut this out. Moving on to the back, so I'm just going to place the front. I've placed my fabric on fold, and you're placing the front on it like so, leaving out some space by the side and this part also. So here I just extended the crotch line, extended the waistline. So from this line here, I'm going to come down by ½ inch. This for the back crotch extension. So I just came down by 1 inch, and then I'm going to be marking 2.5 for the back extension, just like so. And on this curved part, I'm going to come out by 1 inch. Okay, we are following the front curve. Okay, so this is come out by 1 inch, 1 inch, and from this part, like so, this is the center front line. So we're going to go inwards by 1 inch on this part as well. So we're going to go up by 1.5. Okay, so we came in by 1 inch and went up by 1.5, came out 1 inch here, and then the crotch extension. So I'm just going to connect this to this part, and then this to this part. Coming out to this other part, we're just going to measure from here. Remember we're working with the hip, so I'm just going to mark it here, and I'll be adding 1.5 for seam allowance. Next is to connect this point. Just going to extend the line this way and connect it to meet this one. So from this side, I'm going to be adding 1 inch all the way to the hemline. And coming over to this point, so on the knee line, okay, I'm just placing this to mark the knee line. From that knee line, I'm going to mark 1 inch all the way to the hemline, and then we'll connect it to meet this extension, and then we'll cut. That's basically it for the back. So now I'm going to place the front and the back together, and from the waistline I'm going to measure 2 inches downwards and notch. From this point we're going to be fixing the pockets. Okay, so to sew this, we're going to go and stitch here with 1/2 inch and also stitch here with 1/2 inch. So this is what I have when I'm done. I've also gone ahead to weave it, or serge, depends on what you call it. So I'm just going to open this up, and I will place the front on the back, right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to go and stitch the sides. So from this part, we're going to sew from the waistline and stop somewhere here where we made the notch, and then I'm going to measure 6.5 inches. So this 6.5 is for the pocket opening, and then I'll continue sewing all the way to the hemline. I'll repeat the same for the other side as well. To cut the pockets, so I have this piece of fabric on fold, and it's for the 2 pockets. So for the length of this pockets, I'm going to make it 11 inches, and for the width, the wideness, remember it's on fold, I'm going to mark 8 inches, and then I'm going to trim off the excess here. So how you're going to basically do it is to put your palm this way and just trace it out just like I did here, making sure that there's space enough around your palm. Okay, so I'm just going to follow it this way and cut. And this is what the pocket looks like. So another thing to take note of is to make sure that the wideness of this part should be at least 7 inches. Okay, I'm just going to separate the pocket pieces. I'm going to place each right side facing each other. This is for one and this is for the other. So to sew this now, I'm going to measure from this top part. I'm going to come down by either 1 inch or 1/2 inch. I'm just going to mark it in, then I'll mark 6.5. Remember our pocket opening on the pants is 6.5. We're just going to sew from here all the way around and then stop here. Your stitch should start and stop 1 inch away from this point. Okay, so what I did is I basically came down here, measured 6.5 for the pocket opening, and I'll go and sew and stop here. I'll repeat the same for the second pocket as well. So this is what I have when I'm done. As you can see, this is the opening for the pocket. So now I'm going to grab the pants. I've already fixed one of the pockets. So what you're going to do basically is to open the seams up, and you're going to be matching it with this. So I'm going to place this right like so, right side facing each other. I'm going to hold this with a pin. So you're going to go and stitch on one of the seam like so, and then going to flip it this way and stitch this on the other seam. So this is what I have when I'm done. So the next thing we're going to do now is to open this place up, making sure to match these two joining. You're going to match these two joining like so. I'm going to hold it first with a pin, and then we're going to go and stitch from the hemline all the way around to the other side. So this is what we'll have when I'm done. As you can see, our pocket is sitting very neat. I've also gone ahead to iron everything up, and this is this part. So next is to work on our waistband. Okay, I've gone ahead to cut the waistband. It measures 2.5 inches wide on fold. The elastic I'll be using for this band is 2 inches wide. So when you open it up, this is what you have. I've added interfacing and also folded 1/2 inch inwards using hemming gun to secure it. When you fold it, this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to grab the pant and we're going to measure the waistline. So what I'm going to do is to hold it just like so, and then I'm going to measure from one end to the other. And what I have is about 2.5. So I'm going to also fold the waistband like so, and I will measure and mark 22.5. Okay, and I will trim off the excess that I have there. Next, I'm going to open this up like so, matching the two right side facing each other, and we'll go and stitch this part. So this is what I have when I'm done, and when you turn it out, this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to grab our trouser, and we'll be stitching from inside out. So I'm going to grab this waistband. You see the part that is longer, I'm going to grab it, placing it from the inside. So I'm going to match this part that we stitch, the parts that will join. So I'm going to match it with the side seam just like so, and I'll be pinning it. Okay, so I'm pinning this from the inside. So I'm just going to hold this all around the waistline. I'm going to hold it all around the waistline and I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch. So this is what I have when I'm done. So the next thing I'm going to do is just to flip this over like so, and then we're going to go and stitch. The benefit of this folding in is that you're going to be stitching. You won't need to be folding it while you're sewing. So we're going to be leaving at least 1 inch space I will be using to pass the elastic band. So this is what I have when I'm done. As you can see, this is what the inside looks like, neatly sewn. So this is the opening. So now we're going to be passing our elastic. This is the elastic I'm working with, and it's 2 inches wide. So I'm going to measure. I'm going to subtract 7 inches from my waistline. So whatever your waist measurement is, subtract 7 inches from it. So that's what I'm going to be using to measure out the elastic. So I'm just going to cut what I have here. Then I'm going to grab my safety pin. We're going to be using it to pass the elastic through the waistband. So now from that 1 inch opening that we made here, I'll be using it to pass the elastic. So one thing to be careful about when using a very bold elastic is to make sure that it's not twisting while you are passing it through the waistband. Okay, so you're just going to do that very carefully. That's basically what I'm going to do here until I pass the whole elastic through the waist. Okay, so to make sure that this other end of your elastic doesn't go inside the waistband mistakenly, you're just going to put a safety pin on that other end. Okay, I'm done passing the elastic, so I'm just going to take out the safety pin and I'm going to hold the two ends of the elastic. I'm going to go and stitch. Make sure to stitch it with multiple stitches. Okay, so when I'm done, just going to, next thing I'm going to do is just to stretch out the waist just like so. And when you do that, the elastic is going to enter inside. So I'm not going to go and stitch up to close up that opening there and run a stitch in the middle. So to run the stitch in the middle of this waistband, you're just going to stretch out the waist like so, so that all the ruffles or the folds are going to distribute evenly. So pick one point on the waistband. Okay, you're going to be placing your machine foot in the middle of the waistband. So what you're going to basically do is to grab one end, just pick one point and stretch. When you stretch, then you sew. Then you're going to turn this like so, pick one point and stretch it out, and so that's what I'm going to do until I've run the stitch all around the waistline. So this way all the ruffles, the folds is going to be evenly distributed. So here I'm done. You can choose to run multiple stitch on this waistline, is totally up to you. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to fold the hem of this pants. And that is it for the making of this baggy pants. So this is what the elastic waistband looks like. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're yet to subscribe, please click on the subscribe button and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.